Hey everyone, it's Tony here with Alessandro, and Alessandro, you just got to check out some Shadow Warrior 3.
Yeah, this is the next one from Flying Wild Hog, and it's coming from Devolver Digital as well, and we got to see more of the game during that really crazy, sort of like E3 presentation, and we also got a bit of an extended look after that too, like we saw about 20 minutes or so of gameplay.
It looks a lot like Doom, like this kind of just feels like Ninja Doom in a way.
Yeah, basically. Yeah.
And I think a big part of that is because they've added a new grappling hook. Traversal has obviously been a big part of these games. Like the second game added, you're climbing, you're double jumping. Now we've got a grappling hook to swing all around. So tell me what that's like using that.
The grappling hook is the new thing that will, for one, actually allow you to, sort of move around like, certain sections of the levels, but also using combat as well. So you can actually grapple onto like certain objects like explosive barrels. There's a lot more focus on sort of like blending these different skills together.
Yeah, I saw kind of a get over here scorpion kind of move in the gameplay where Lo pulled over an enemy closer so that he could shoot them.
It's got that same energy actually. It's like a cross between like Mortal Kombat and Doom really. Like, it's got that sort of very like high flying, very action oriented like energy to it.
I mentioned Lo Wang just a moment ago. Lo Wang, of course, being the hero of these games. And if we're talking Doom, like, is he still kind of a caricature Doom guy kind of type in this game, or are they kind of fleshing him out more as a character for this one?
I'd say they're actually fleshing him out a bit more with this game. I actually got to speak with one of the creative leads at Flying Wild Hog, Paweł Kowalewski, and he stated that they wanted to make it seem like that Lo Wang was not only more of a character this time around, we're actually getting to know more about him and being more comfortable with his sort of like playfulness, but he's actually something a bit more of like a fanboy, just sort of like really having fun in the experience. He's there's one moment in like the demo we saw where like R&B music came in. Like it was a really fun moment. It's got like strong like Deadpool energy to it.
Are you in doubt we can do this?
Kill a dragon as big as a mountain with a Halloween mask? Damn right. Well, personally, I'd rather have a battle cruiser with photon torpedoes.
It was cool seeing him like, sort of become more of like a character instead of a caricature because, I'd be remiss not to bring this up, but the original Shadow Warrior actually sort of relied pretty heavily on like sort of these very antiquated and, pretty offensive stereotypes.
These games have certainly made that change to Lo Wang as a character, but this third one, it's also kind of making a change to the way the levels are designed, right?
Yes, I can say that this game is moving closer to what the original reboot, the Shadow Warrior reboot, was about. The second game actually experimented a bit with, sort of like this loot system, and also brought in randomly generated like levels. For this game, they're going to be moving away from that entirely and just going back to the more like handcrafted, like singular spaces. They're going more for like the story-driven like experience, and also a single-player experience because there's actually going to be no co-op this time around as well.
So the game is entirely single-player. That's totally fine. That's their prerogative. But they are still remixing combat in other ways, right? You said there's no loot system, but you can still like acquire weapons from the enemies, kind of?
Yeah, so each weapon in the game is very much like handcrafted. Like, there's less redundancy in the weapons you can acquire in the game because the second game like had I think over 70 weapons, and you can find like so many variables of like swords and stuff. So each weapon in the game is very much like a thing you can actually acquire from like the story missions or actually from combat encounters themselves, which during like several moments you can actually pull off these finishers like on enemies, and you can actually pull out a weapon from them. Like my favorite enemy actually from the demo was like this sort of like weird like jack-in-the-box looking enemy, like and you can actually sort of tear it open and pull out this fireworks launcher, and you can actually use it against other enemies in the area. It sort of gives it an arcadey vibe to it, where you get these pickups that you can actually use for a limited time to actually take out all the enemies in the area. And one thing I did like is that they seem to be applying the sort of Doom 2016 or Doom Eternal sort of philosophy of the combat puzzle. So each encounter actually has you facing off with all these different enemies, and you need to figure out the best way to actually sort of take them out by either using these sort of like pick up weapons that you get from fallen enemies, or even the traps. And one really cool trap is like there's this like row of buzzsaws like going through the environment. You can actually push enemies into them, and it sort of creates these really gnarly encounters that looked like just really fantastic.
Kind of seems like those puzzly encounters go hand in hand with the handcrafted level design then.
It definitely echoes that of the original reboot, but it still got some of that sort of the just extremely over-the-top energy from the second game as well. So in a lot of ways, it's sort of like a happy mix between the first and second Shadow Warrior. It's something that I'm really looking forward to seeing more, because I want to see like how far they can push.
Well, speaking of seeing more, when can people get their hands on this?
So right now, Shadow Warrior 3 is currently planned for a 2021 release on PC, and they haven't said anything about consoles yet, so we'll hopefully hear more about that. Obviously, we have the new PS5 and Xbox Series X coming out this year, so I wouldn't be surprised if we see Shadow Warrior 3 on those consoles as well.
I wouldn't be surprised either, so stay tuned to GameSpot. We will certainly report on those announcements if they happen, and stay tuned for more Shadow Warrior 3 coverage.